My parents sat me down and said they were giving my sister a brand new downtown apartment with an elevator and security, and they were giving me a dilapidated house with broken windows and a sagging roof. They said I was the practical one. They had no idea what that land was worth. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type interested in the comments, and I will give you a heart. I'm standing in my parents' living room in suburban Philadelphia, and it's a Thursday afternoon in late September, and the light coming through the bay window is that golden autumn light that makes everything look warm and comfortable and safe. Except nothing about this moment feels safe, feels comfortable, feels anything except calculated. And my parents are sitting on the couch, that same beige sectional they've had for 15 years. And my sister Victoria is beside them scrolling through her phone like she already knows what's about to happen, like she's already been briefed, like this conversation has already occurred without me. And that realization, that understanding that I'm not participant in this discussion, but subject of it, that hits before anyone even speaks. And hitting, that's accurate word, because what's about to happen feels like impact, feels like collision, feels like moment when you realize the game was rigged before you even sat down to play. And playing, participating, engaging, that's what I thought I was doing by showing up, by being good daughter, by being reliable one, by being person who always said yes, who always understood, who always made it easy for everyone else. And everyone else, that's them, that's my parents who are looking at me with that expression, that careful expression, that expression that says we've already decided your future and we're just here to inform you of it. And informing me, that's what my father does when he clears his throat. That deliberate sound that means pay attention, means this is important, means we're about to tell you something and we expect you to accept it gracefully and gracefully. That's their expectation, their requirement, their assumption about how I'll respond. And responding, that's what I'm supposed to do, am expected to do, and being positioned to do. Except I haven't heard what I'm responding to yet. Haven't been told what decision has been made. Haven't been given information. Just given setup, just given stage, just given moment that feels like trap and trap. That's exactly what this is moment when parents call you into living room and act like they're being generous while actually being cruel and cruel. That strong word, but accurate word is exactly right word for what's about to happen. And happening, that starts when my mother smiles, that tight smile, that smile that doesn't reach her eyes, that smile that means this is supposed to be generous. So you better be grateful and grateful. That's emotion they're expecting, is response they've prepared for, is exactly what they're not going to get, and getting what they expect. That's been pattern, has been my role, has been how I've survived 27 years in family that measures worth by comparison. And comparison, that's what this moment is about, is setting up comparison, is creating hierarchy, is establishing once again that Victoria is favorite and I am afterthought, an afterthought. That's generous description, because afterthought suggests they thought about me at all, and thinking about me, considering my needs, understanding my worth. That's not what's happening here, not what's ever happened here, not what I should have expected would start happening now. And now, this moment, this is when my father says we decided to help both our daughters get proper start in life. And proper start, that phrase, that's loaded, is weighted, is full of assumptions about what proper means and meaning. That definition, that's always been shaped by them, has always been determined by their values, has always been measured against Victoria. And Victoria, who's sitting there still scrolling through phone like this is boring, like this is formality, like she already knows she's won, and winning, that's how they've structured this, is competition, is contest, is race where one daughter gets prize and other daughter gets consolation. And consolation, that's what I'm about to receive, is what I can feel coming, is exactly what my mother announces when she says Victoria is getting brand new apartment in the city, downtown, modern building, and modern building. She emphasizes this, says it like it's important, like modern means valuable, like new means better, and better, that's implication, is subtext, is exactly what she wants me to understand. And understanding, I do understand that this is set up, is beginning of comparison, is first half of equation. Where Victoria gets everything and I get whatever's left, and left, that's what comes next, is what my mother announces when she turns to me, when her smile gets even tighter, when she says, and we're giving you a house. And house, that word, that should sound good, should sound generous, should sound like they're giving me something valuable. Except the pause, the hesitation, the way my father won't meet my eyes, that tells me everything. tells me this isn't generosity, is something else, is something worse and worse. That's confirmed when they show me the address, when they pull up photos on tablet, when I see what they're actually giving me, that's generous word for what this is. Because what I'm looking at isn't house, is ruin, is disaster, is structure that looks like it's been abandoned for decade and decade. That might be accurate, might be exactly how long this place has been sitting there rotting, has been waiting for someone desperate enough or foolish enough to take it and taking it. That's what they expect me to do. Expect me to smile, expect me to thank them, expect me to accept this wreck as equivalent to Victoria's brand new downtown apartment with elevator and gym and security. And security, that's ironic because nothing about this moment feels secure, feels stable, feels anything except like I'm being set up to fail. And failing, that's expectation, is what they're counting on, is exactly what this gift is designed to accomplish, and accomplishing that. Proving I'm less than Victoria, demonstrating I can't succeed. That's goal, is point, is exactly why they're giving me house that's falling apart while giving her apartment that's perfect and perfect. That's word my mother uses, says Victoria needs something safe and ready, says this like it's explanation, like it's justification. Like it makes sense that one daughter gets move-in ready apartment while other daughter gets condemned property, and condemned, that might be legal status, might be actual designation, might be exactly what this house is. And house, I'm using that word loosely because what I'm looking at in these photos is wreck, is disaster, is structure with cracked walls and broken windows and sagging roof that looks like it's one strong wind away from collapse. And collapse, that's metaphor, is symbol, is exactly what they expect will happen to me and happening to me. That script they've written, is story they've decided, is narrative where Victoria succeeds in her perfect apartment while I struggle and fail in house that's already failing. And failing, that's their assumption, is their expectation, is exactly what they're counting on, and counting on it. They've made decision, have signed papers, have already transferred deed to my name, and name, mine, that's on these documents, is legally binding, is official, and official, that should mean something, should mean I have power, should mean I have choice. Accept choice, that's illusion. Because refusing this gift means being ungrateful daughter, means being difficult one, means being person who rejects parents' generosity, and generosity, that's word they'll use, is how they'll describe this, is exactly how they'll frame it to relatives, to friends, to anyone who asks, and asking people will ask, will want to know why one daughter got apartment and other got wreck, and wreck. That's word I want to use, is accurate description, is exactly what I'm looking at, but word they'll use, word my mother is already using, is potential, says house is full of potential, says it needs work, but has good bones, says I'm practical one, so this suits me better and better. That word, that qualifier, that's poison, is knife, is exactly what reveals what this really is, and really is this isn't gift, is test, is challenge, is them setting me up to prove once again that Victoria is golden child, and I am disappointment, and disappointment, that's role I've played, is designation I've carried, is exactly what they expect I'll continue to be, and being that, accepting that, playing that role. That's what I've done for 27 years, have done every time they compared us, every time they praised her and criticized me, every time they made it clear that she was their priority and I was their obligation. And obligation, that's what this feels like they're checking box, feels like they're fulfilling duty, feels like they're doing minimum required to say they helped both daughters equally, and equally, that word, that's joke, is fiction, is lie there. Telling themselves, because nothing about this is equal, nothing about giving one daughter perfect apartment and other daughter condemned house is fair, is anything except blatant favoritism. And favoritism, that's been pattern, has been constant, has been every birthday where her gifts were better, every Christmas where her stocking was fuller, every achievement where her accomplishments were celebrated while mine were minimized. And minimized, that's what's happening now, is happening when my mother rushes to explain that Victoria needs something safe, needs something ready, needs something that doesn't require work. And requiring work, that's implication about me, is suggestion that I'm capable of work in way Victoria isn't, is backhanded compliment that positions my competence as reason for my punishment. And punishment, that's what this is penalty for being reliable, is cost of being practical, is price of being daughter who doesn't need as much attention. And attention, that's what Victoria gets, has always gotten, will continue to get, and getting it, receiving it, being center of their focus. That's made her into a person who expects everything, who demands everything, who sits on couch scrolling through phone while parents give her apartment and give me disaster. And disaster, that's not exaggeration, is accurate assessment, is exactly what I'm inheriting and inheriting. That's interesting word, because inheritance usually means gift, usually means blessing, usually means parents giving children something valuable. But valuable, this house isn't that, isn't gift, is burden, is problem, is exactly what they think I deserve, and deserving, that's question, is calculation, is measurement they've made about my worth versus Victoria's worth. And worth, that's been determined, has been decided, has been made clear through this gift and gift. I'm using that word, ironically, I'm using it bitterly, I'm using it the way they're using it, which is to disguise cruelty as generosity, and generosity, that's what they think they're showing, is what they expect me to recognize, is exactly what they want me to be grateful for, and grateful, that's emotion I'm supposed to feel, is response I'm expected to have, is exactly what comes out of my mouth when I say thank you, when I nod, when I accept this disaster as equivalent to Victoria's palace and palace. That's exaggeration, but feels accurate, feels true, feels exactly right when comparing modern downtown apartment to house with broken windows and sagging roof, and roof. That sagging roof, that's first thing I notice in photos, is most obvious problem, is literally visible structural failure, and failure, that's word that keeps coming back, is concept that keeps repeating, is exactly what this house represents, and representing failure, that's symbolic, is intentional, is exactly what they're telling me about who I am and what I'm worth. And worth, that calculation, that measurement, that's been made clear through this gift, and gift, that word is starting to feel like curse, is starting to feel like weapon, is exactly what it is tool they're using to establish hierarchy, to reinforce favoritism, to demonstrate once again that Victoria is their priority and I am their afterthought. And afterthought, that's generous, because afterthought suggests thought happened at all, and thinking about me, considering my needs, caring about my feelings, that doesn't seem to have occurred, doesn't seem to have been factor, doesn't seem to have mattered at all. And matching, that's question, is fundamental issue, is exactly what this moment is teaching me about my place in this family. And place, mine, that's at bottom, is in shadows, is exactly where they've always kept me, and keeping me there, that strategy, is pattern, is exactly what this gift is designed to reinforce, and reinforcing it. That's what's happening, is what's being established, is exactly what I'm supposed to accept, and accepting it, that's what I do, is what I've always done, is exactly what good daughters do, and good daughter, that's role I've played, is mask I've worn, is exactly who I'm being when I say thank you again. When I take the folder with deed and photos, when I walk out of that living room with disaster in my hands and expectations on my shoulders and shoulders, mine, those are supposed to carry this burden, are supposed to bear this weight, are supposed to accept that I got wreck, while Victoria got palace, and palace, that comparison, that gap, that's intentional, is designed, is exactly what they wanted to create, and creating it, establishing it, making it visible, that's what this gift has accomplished, has demonstrated, has proven about how they see us, and seeing us, that perception, that's been shaped by years of comparison, years of favoritism, years of positioning Victoria as success and me as struggle, and struggle, that's what they expect, is what they're counting on, is exactly what this house represents, and representing struggle, that's symbolic, is meaningful, is exactly what they're telling me about my future, and future, mine, that's supposed to be spent fixing this wreck, while Victoria enjoys her perfect apartment. And enjoying it, that's what she's already doing, is already planning, is already imagining based on ways she finally looks up from phone and smiles, actually smiles, and smiling, that expression, that's not joy for me, is satisfaction for her, is exactly what this moment was designed to create, and creating that satisfaction, that hierarchy, that comparison, that's what my parents have accomplished, have established, have made undeniable, and undeniable, that's what this is moment when favoritism stops being subtle and becomes explicit, stops being hidden and becomes obvious, stops being deniable and becomes fact, and fact, that truth, that reality, that's sitting in folder in my hands, is contained in deed to house that's falling apart is exactly what I'm driving home with. And driving home, that's ironic because home, the place I'm going, that's apartment I'm renting. But home, the place I now own, that's disaster I haven't even seen in person yet. And seeing it, that's next step, is next phase, is exactly what I do 3 days later when I pull up to address they gave me. An address, that location, that's in neighborhood that's rough, is an area that's struggling, is exactly where you'd expect to find abandoned house. And abandoned, that's what this looks like, is what neighbors probably think it is exactly what it was until my parents decided to make it my problem. And problem, that's accurate word, is exactly what I'm looking at when I get out of car and stand on sidewalk and really see what they've given me. And seeing it, that's worse than photos, is more devastating than I imagined, is exactly the moment when I understand that this wasn't just favoritism, was cruelty, was punishment, was them telling me exactly what they think I'm worth. And worth, that value that's been established, has been made clear, has been demonstrated through gift of house that looks like it's been condemned. And condemned, that might be legal status, might be actual designation, might be exactly what I need to check. And checking that, investigating that, that's first thing I do, is first step in process that's about to change everything. And everything, that transformation, that's coming, is building, is exactly what they don't expect. And expecting, they expect failure, expect struggle, expect me to come back begging for help. And help, that's what they think I'll need, is what they're counting on, is exactly what I'm never going to ask for. And asking for it, that would validate their narrative, would confirm their story, would prove that I'm less than Victoria. And proving that, that's what this gift was designed to accomplish, was intended to establish, was supposed to demonstrate, except demonstrating it, proving it, establishing it, that requires me to fail. And failing, that's their expectation, is their assumption, is exactly what's not going to happen and not happening. That refusal, that resistance, that starts here, starts now, starts with me standing on sidewalk looking at disaster they gave me and making decision. And decision, that choice, that's mine, is my power, is exactly what they didn't account for. And accounting for it, planning for it, expecting it, that would have required seeing me clearly. And seeing me clearly, that's something they've never done, have never tried to do, have never been capable of doing. And doing it, that seeing, that recognition, that's what's about to be forced on them, is what's about to become unavoidable, is exactly what this disaster is going to create. And creating it, that transformation, that revenge, that's not my goal yet, isn't my focus yet, is something I don't even know is coming. And coming, that future, that possibility that's hidden in this disaster, is contained in this wreck, is exactly what I'm about to discover when I walk up crumbling front path, an unlocked door to house my parents gave me while giving my sister palace. And palace versus prison, that's comparison they created, is hierarchy they established, is exactly what's about to be demolished by truth they never bothered to investigate. And investigating, that's what I'm about to do, is what survival requires, is exactly what's going to reveal that disaster they gave me is hiding something they never saw coming. I unlock the front door of the house my parents gave me, and the door doesn't open smoothly, doesn't swing wide like doors in movies. Instead, it scrapes against warped floor, makes this grinding sound that echoes through empty structure. And empty, that's what this place is completely empty, is stripped of everything except decay. And decay, that's visible everywhere, is in water stains on ceiling, is in buckled hardwood floors, is in walls where plaster has crumbled away revealing wooden lath underneath. And underneath, that's theme here, is what I'm going to have to get to, is exactly what this house is going to require. And requiring, this place requires everything, requires money I don't have, requires skills I haven't learned, requires time I'm not sure I can afford. And affording, that's question, is calculation I'm already doing, is math that doesn't add up. Because I work administrative job at medical office, make $42,000 a year before taxes, and taxes take their share, rent takes its share, student loans take their share, and share what's left. That's not enough to renovate house, is barely enough to buy materials for one room, is exactly why my parents thought this was safe bet, thought I'd fail, thought I'd come back asking for help. And help, that's what they're expecting, is what they're waiting for, is exactly what I'm not going to give them. And giving them that satisfaction, that validation, that proof they were right, that's unacceptable, is impossible, is exactly what I refuse to do. And refusing, that's decision, is commitment, is exactly what I make standing in entrance of this wreck. And wreck, that's accurate word, but wreck can be salvaged, can be rebuilt, can be transformed if you're willing to work. And working, that's what I know how to do, has been my survival strategy, has been how I've managed to succeed despite being invisible daughter. And invisible, that's what I've been, has been my role, has been exactly what allowed me to observe, to learn, to understand things people don't expect me to understand. And understanding, that's my advantage, is my weapon, is exactly what's about to save me. And saving me, that starts with assessment, starts with walking through house room by room, starts with documenting every problem, every failure, every disaster. And disaster, there are many, are everywhere, are in every room. Kitchen has cabinets hanging off walls, has floor that's rotted through in. Corner has plumbing that's frozen and burst. Bathroom has toilet that's cracked, has tub that's stained beyond recognition, has tiles that are missing, revealing black mold underneath. And mold, that's health hazard, is serious problem, is exactly what I photograph with my phone. And photographing, that's first step, is documentation, is creating record of what I'm starting with. And starting with this, that's daunting, is overwhelming, is exactly what would make most people quit. And quitting, that's option, is what my parents expect, is exactly what I'm not going to do. And doing, not quitting, that requires plan, requires strategy, requires understanding what's possible versus what's fantasy. And fantasy, that would be thinking I can hire contractors, can pay professionals, can approach this like renovation show. But reality, actual reality, that requires different approach, requires learning to do things myself, requires accepting that this is going to take time. And time, that's resource I have, is thing I can invest, is exactly what I'm going to use. And using it, that starts immediately, starts that weekend when I go to library, when I check out books on home repair, when I start watching videos on YouTube, when I begin teaching myself basics of construction. And construction, that skill, is knowledge, is power. And power, that's what I'm building, is what I'm accumulating, is exactly what my parents didn't expect. And expecting, they expected helplessness, expected dependence, expected me to prove I needed them. And needing them, that's what they wanted, is what would have validated their narrative, is exactly what I'm refusing to give them. And giving them nothing, denying them satisfaction, that's motivation, is fuel, is exactly what gets me through first month of working on house. And working on it, that's what I do, is what consumes every spare moment, is exactly what my life becomes. And becoming that, transforming into person who works 2 jobs, who spends every weekend at hardware store, who learns to patch drywall and replace floorboards and fix plumbing. That's who I am now, is who I'm choosing to be, is exactly who my parents didn't think I could be. And being that person, that's satisfying, is validating, is proof that their judgment was wrong. And wrong, they were wrong about me, have always been wrong about me, will continue to be wrong about me. And being wrong, that's their error, is their miscalculation, is exactly what I'm going to prove. And proving it, that's goal, is target, is exactly what drives me through second month, through third month, through moment when I'm standing on ladder at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday because I have to patch roof before next rain. And rain, that's forecast, is coming tomorrow, is exactly why I'm up here in dark with headlamp and tar paper. And tar paper, that's not proper roofing, is temporary fix, is exactly what I can afford. And affording, that's constant calculation, is ongoing assessment, is exactly what determines every choice I make. And making choices, that's empowering, is liberating, is exactly what I've never had in relationship with my parents and relationship with them. That's change, has shifted, has become something different since they gave me this house. And house, this project, this has created distance, has given me excuse to avoid family dinners, has provided reason to decline invitations. And invitations, those have decreased, have become less frequent, have practically stopped. And stopping, that's fine with me, is relief, actually is exactly what I need to focus on work. And work, that's consuming, is all-encompassing, is exactly what my life has become. And becoming that being person whose entire existence revolves around fixing house, that's intense, is exhausting, is exactly what's required. And requiring it, demanding it, that's what this project does, is what transformation requires, is exactly what's happening to me physically, mentally, emotionally. And emotionally, that's interesting because somewhere in this process, somewhere between learning to tile bathroom and teaching myself to install electrical outlets, Somewhere in there, I stopped being angry, stopped feeling bitter, stopped resenting my parents and resenting them. That's been replaced by something else, by focus, by purpose, by understanding that this disaster they gave me, this is actually gift, and gift. That's ironic word, is complicated word, is exactly what I'm starting to understand this is, and understanding that, recognizing that shift is transformation is exactly what's happening around month for when I'm installing new kitchen cabinets, cheap cabinets from discount store, nothing fancy, but functional, but clean, but mine, and mine, that word, that ownership, that's what's changing, is what's transforming my relationship to this place, this house. This is starting to feel like home, is starting to feel like achievement, is starting to feel like proof, and proof. That's what I'm building, is what I'm creating, is exactly what's becoming visible, and visible, that's when things shift, is when my parents asked to visit, is exactly 6 months after they gave me keys, and keys, those. I've been using them every day, have been coming here after work, have been spending every weekend here, have been transforming this place, and transforming, that's accurate word. Because what was wreck is becoming house. What was disaster is becoming home. What was punishment is becoming victory, and victory, that's what they don't expect, is what they're not prepared for, is exactly what they encounter when they pull up to address, that location, that same, but everything else is different, is changed, is exactly what makes my mother's face do something complicated when she gets out of car, and complicated, that's word for her expression, is mix of surprise and confusion, and something else, something that might be recognition, might be understanding, might be beginning of seeing me differently, and differently, that's how she's looking at house, is how she's walking up front path that I've cleared, that I've edged, that I've made welcoming, and welcoming, that's not word anyone would have used for this property 6 months ago. But now it's different, is change, is exactly what makes my father stop on porch, and porch, that's new, is structure I built myself, learned carpentry for, spent 3 weekends constructing, and constructing it, that was challenge, was learning experience, was exactly what taught me I'm capable of more than I thought, and thinking about capability, about capacity, about potential, that's been revelation, has been discovery, has been exactly what this house has taught me, and teaching me, that's ongoing, is continuing, is exactly what happens when I open front door. When my parents step inside, when they see what I've done and done, that's word that doesn't capture it, because what I've done isn't just repair, isn't just fixing, is transformation, is complete renovation of space that was uninhabitable, and inhabitable it is now, is actually livable now, is exactly what my mother's expression shows she's recognizing, and recognizing that's happening, is visible, is exactly what I see in her face as she walks through rooms I've rebuilt, and rebuilt, that's accurate, because I didn't just patch, didn't just cover up, actually rebuilt, actually learned proper technique, actually did work that would pass inspection. And inspection, that's interesting word, because I had house inspected last month, had professional come through, had him document everything, and everything that's been brought to code has been made safe, has been done correctly, and correctly, that's important, is crucial, is exactly what makes this house valuable. And valuable, that's word my mother uses. Says, I can't believe how much you've done. Says, this looks completely different. Says, you've made this valuable. And valuable, that word, that's trigger, is catalyst, is exactly what makes me reach for folder, and folder, that's documents, is paperwork, is exactly what I've been preparing, and preparing, that's been strategic, has been intentional, has been exactly what I'm about to reveal. And revealing, that's going to change everything, is going to shift dynamic, is exactly what happens when I tell my mother that I know what this property is worth. And worth, that value, that's not what she thinks, is not what they assumed, is exactly what they never bothered to investigate. And investigating, that's what I did, is what I spent time doing, is exactly what led me to discovery. And discovery, that's what this is finding that this land, this specific plot, this is zoned differently from surrounding properties, is grandfathered into commercial residential overlap, is exactly what makes it valuable. And valuable, that's understatement, because what makes it valuable isn't house, is land. Underneath is location, is access, is zoning, and zoning, that's technical term, is legal designation, is exactly what I learned about when I went to city planning office, when I requested records, when I discovered that this property, this disaster my parents gave me, This is sitting on land that developers have been trying to acquire for years and years. That's time, is duration, is exactly how long companies have been circling this neighborhood. And neighborhood, this area, this is gentrifying, is transforming, is exactly what makes my property valuable. And valuable, that's not about house I renovated, is about land I own, is exactly what I discovered 3 months ago. And discovering it, that changed everything, changed my approach, changed my timeline, changed my understanding of what this gift actually was. And actually that's interesting because my parents thought they were giving me burden, thought they were setting me up to fail, thought they were proving I was less than Victoria, but actually what they gave me, what they handed over without investigating, what they signed away without understanding, that's opportunity, is leverage, is exactly what I'm about to use. And using it, that's starting now, is beginning with this conversation, is exactly what happens when I tell my mother that I've been contacted by developer. And developer, that's company, is serious company, is firm that's been buying properties in this area, an area, this neighborhood, this is next target for development, is exactly what makes my land valuable. And valuable, that's word that keeps coming back, is concept that keeps repeating, is exactly what my mother's face shows she's understanding. And understanding that's dawning, is happening, is exactly what makes her ask how much. And much, that question, that's what she wants to know, is what she needs to know, is exactly what I tell her. And telling her that's moment, is revelation, is exactly what makes her face go pale. And pale, that's color, is shade, is exactly what happens when she realizes that house she thought was burden is actually worth more than apartment she gave Victoria. And Victoria, my sister, that's who my mother immediately thinks of, is who she compares to, is exactly what makes her say, but that's not fair. And fair, that word, that's ironic coming from her, is rich, is exactly what I point out when I say fair. Mom, you gave Victoria a brand new apartment and gave me condemned house. And condemned, that's what this was, is what this looked like, is exactly what I've transformed. And transforming it, that's my achievement, is my work, is exactly what makes this valuable. And valuable, that's combination, is house I renovated plus land I own plus zoning I discovered. And discovering that, investigating that, learning that, that's my contribution, is my value add, is exactly what they didn't expect. And expecting, they expected failure, expected me to struggle, expected house to remain worthless. And worthless, that's what they thought it was, is why they felt safe giving it to me, is exactly why this backfired. And backfiring, that's happening now, is visible now, is exactly what my mother's face shows when she asks if developers' offer is real. And real, it is legitimate, is exactly what I confirmed through lawyer. And lawyer, that's who I hired, is professional I consulted, is exactly what smart people do when dealing with property transactions. And transactions, that's what this is becoming, is what's about to happen, is exactly what I explained to my mother. And explaining, that's what I do, is laying out timeline, is showing her documents, is making it clear that in 2 weeks I'm accepting offer. An offer that's substantial, is life-changing, is exactly what my parents never expected I'd have. And having it, that's power, is leverage, is exactly what shifted balance. And balance, that's changed, is different now, is exactly what makes my mother say we should talk about this. And talk, that's interesting suggestion, is revealing choice of words, is exactly what shows she thinks she has input. And input, she doesn't, has no say, has no claim, because property is mine, is legally mine, is exactly what deed says. And deed, that's document, is legal instrument, is exactly what I show her. And showing her, that's making point, is establishing boundary, is exactly what I do when I say there's nothing to talk about. Mom, house is mine, decision is mine, sale is mine. And mine, that word, that emphasis, that's claiming ownership, is establishing autonomy, is exactly what I've never done before. And doing it, that's transformation, is growth, is exactly what this house has taught me. And teaching me, that's been gift, real gift, is exactly what this disaster became. And becoming that, transforming from burden to blessing, that's irony, is justice, is exactly what they're starting to understand. And understanding, that's happening, is visible, is exactly what I see in my father's face when he finally speaks, when he asks if I'm sure about this. And sure, I am completely certain, am exactly as confident as he's trained me to be by never believing in me. And believing in me, that absence, that lack, that's been fuel, has been motivation, has been exactly what drove me to prove them wrong. And wrong, they were, are, will continue to be. And being wrong, that's their legacy, is their contribution, is exactly what this moment is exposing. My parents leave my house, my renovated house, my valuable property, and they don't say goodbye. Don't congratulate me. Don't acknowledge what I've accomplished. They just get in their car and drive away. And driving away. That's their response, is their way of processing, is exactly what people do when reality contradicts their narrative. And narrative. That's been that I'm the struggling daughter, that I'm the one who needs help, that I'm the one who can't succeed without them. And succeeding without them, that's what I've done, is what I've proven, is exactly what they can't accept. And accepting it, that would require admitting they were wrong. And admitting that, acknowledging that, that's not something my parents do, have never done, will never do. And doing it, that absence, that refusal, that's been pattern my entire life. An entire life. That's 27 years of being compared to Victoria. 27 years of being told I'm not quite enough. 27 years of watching them celebrate her while overlooking me and overlooking me. That's been their choice, has been their strategy, has been exactly what allowed me to work quietly, to build secretly, to transform disaster into victory without them noticing. And noticing they're noticing now, is happening now, is exactly what I see 2 days later when Victoria calls me, and calling me, that's rare, is unusual, is exactly what tells me she's heard. She knows, she's been briefed by parents, and briefed, that's what they did, is what they always do, is how they maintain control. And control, that's what Victoria is trying to exert when she says in voice that's too sweet, too careful, too calculated. Hey, I heard about your house. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. And happy, that word, that's lie, is performance, is exactly what her tone contradicts. Because tone, actual tone that's tight, is strained, is revealing that she's not happy, is concerned, is exactly what she should be. And being concerned, that's appropriate response, is reasonable reaction, is exactly what happens when golden child realizes she's not only child with value. And value, that's what I have now, is what this property represents, is exactly what shifted dynamic. And dynamic, that's changed, is different, is exactly what Victoria is trying to navigate when she says, so what are you going to do? Are you really selling? And selling, that question, that's probe, is investigation, is exactly what tells me this call isn't about congratulating me, is about gathering information. And information, that's what she wants, is what she's fishing for, is exactly what I'm not going to give her. And giving her information, that would be mistake, would be showing my hand, would be exactly what I refuse to do. And refusing, that's my right, is my choice, is exactly what I exercise when I say I'm considering my options. And options, that's vague, is non-committal, is exactly what keeps her guessing. And guessing, that's what she does, what she tries to do, what she attempts when she says, because mom mentioned that maybe we could work something out. Maybe I could buy the house from you. Maybe we could keep it in the family. And family, that word, that's weapon, is manipulation, is exactly what they always use when they want something. And wanting something, that's what this is about, is what this call reveals, is exactly what Victoria is doing. And doing, she's trying to acquire my property, is trying to take what I built, is exactly what makes me laugh. Actually laugh, and laughing, that's response she doesn't expect, is reaction that stops her mid-sentence, is exactly what makes her say what's funny. And funny, that's her asking, is her confusion, is exactly what I explain when I say what's funny is that 6 months ago you sat on the couch scrolling through your phone while mom and dad gave you brand new apartment and gave me condemned house. And condemned, that's what it was, is what you thought it was, is exactly what you were happy about. And happy about it, that's what you were, was satisfied, was smug, was exactly what your face showed. And showing that, revealing that, remembering that, that's what I'm doing now, is what I'm reminding her of, is exactly what makes her go quiet. And quiet, that's silence, that's recognition, is acknowledgement, is exactly what I needed. And needing it, wanting it, that's not about revenge, is about truth, is about making sure she understands that I remember, I saw, I know exactly who she is. And who she is, that's person who benefited from my diminishment, who accepted gifts while watching me receive scraps, who never once questioned whether distribution was fair. And fair, that concept, that's what I'm teaching her about now, is what I'm demonstrating, is exactly what I do when I say the house isn't for sale to family. Victoria, it's for sale to developer. And developer, that's who's buying it, is who made offer, is exactly who I'm selling to and selling to. That's decision, is final, is exactly what I communicate. And communicating it, that's me establishing boundary, is me claiming power, is exactly what I've never done before. And doing it, that's transformation, is growth, is exactly what this house has taught me and teaching me, that's ongoing, is continuing, is exactly what happens over next week when my parents try everything, try guilt, try manipulation, Try suggesting that I'm being selfish, and selfish, that's word my mother uses. Says it on phone call. Says I'm being selfish by not considering family, and family, that word again, that weapon again, is exactly what I'm tired of, and tired of it. That's accurate, because I'm exhausted by being told that family means I should sacrifice while Victoria benefits, and benefiting, that's what she's done, has always done, is exactly what she's about to lose, and losing, that's what this is what's happening to her position, is exactly what occurs when I'm no longer the struggling daughter, and struggling daughter, that role, that's been my designation, has been my identity, and family narrative has been exactly what made Victoria look good by comparison, and comparison, that's how they've always measured us, has always been their method, has been exactly what I'm disrupting by succeeding, and succeeding, that's what I'm doing, is what I've done, is exactly what they can't ignore anymore. And ignoring me, that's been strategy, has been pattern, has been exactly what allowed them to maintain narrative, and narrative that's crumbling, is falling apart, is exactly what I'm watching happen in real time. And real time, that's now, is present, is exactly when my mother shows up at my apartment, my rental apartment, the place I still live because I've been spending every dollar on house renovation, and renovation that's finished now, is complete now, is exactly what makes property valuable. And valuable, that's what my mother wants to discuss, is what she's here to talk about, is exactly what she addresses when she says we need to talk about the house, and house, that possessive, that's interesting choice, is revealing language, is exactly what shows she thinks she has claim, and claim, she doesn't, has no legal standing, has no right, but having no right, that's never stopped her before, has never prevented her from taking what she wants, and wants, what she wants, that's house, is property, is exactly what she proposes when she says, I think we should give the house to Victoria. And Victoria, there it is, there's the truth, is exactly what I knew was coming, and coming, that proposal, that demand, that's what this visit is about, and about that purpose, that's not subtle, is not hidden, is exactly what she states clearly when she says Victoria's apartment is too small. Victoria needs more space. Victoria deserves this house, and deserves, that word, that's loaded, is weighted, is exactly what reveals everything about how she thinks, and thinks what she thinks. That's Victoria deserves what I built. Victoria deserves what I earned. Victoria deserves to benefit from my work, and work, mine. That's what built this value, is what created this opportunity, is exactly what I point out when I say I spent 6 months renovating that house. I spent every weekend learning construction. I spent every dollar I had buying materials, and materials, those, I bought them, I installed them, I transformed wreck into home, and home, that's mine, is legally mine, is exactly what deed says, and deed, that's document, is proof, is exactly what I show her again, and showing her again, that's me being patient, is me being clear, is exactly what I do before I say the house is mine. Mom, the decision is mine, the sale is happening, and happening, that's certain, is definite, is exactly what I've already arranged, and arranged, that's past tense, is done deal, is exactly what I reveal when I tell her that I signed contract yesterday, and yesterday, that's timeline, is when it happened, is exactly when I accept a developer's offer, and offer, that's substantial, is more than apartment cost, is exactly what makes my mother's face go from determined to devastated. And devastated, that's her expression, is her reaction, is exactly what happens when she realizes she's lost. And lost, that's accurate word, because what she's lost isn't just house, is control, is narrative, is exactly what's been stripped away by my success. And success, mine, that's undeniable now, is visible now, is exactly what she can't explain away. And explaining away, that's been her skill, has been her method, has been exactly what she does next when she says you're making mistake, you're being impulsive, you should wait, and wait. That's interesting suggestion, is revealing request, is exactly what tells me she's stalling, is trying to create time, is exactly what I refuse to give her, and giving her time. That would allow her to interfere, to manipulate, to find way to take what's mine, and mine. That's what this is what I've earned, is exactly what I'm protecting when I say the contract is signed, the sale closes in 2 weeks. There's nothing to discuss. And discuss, that's her wanting, is her trying, is exactly what she attempts when she says, but what about Victoria? What about family? What about doing right thing? And right thing, that phrase, that's manipulation, is guilt, is exactly what I'm immune to now. And immune, that's what this process has made me, has transformed me. into is exactly what I demonstrate when I say the right thing is me keeping what I earned, Mom. The right thing is me not giving Victoria what she didn't work for. The right thing is me finally putting myself first. And first, that position, that priority, that's new for me, is revolutionary for me, is exactly what this house has taught me and teaching me. That's been process, has been journey, has been exactly what I needed, and needing it, that growth, that transformation. That's what makes me able to stand here, to face my mother, to say no, and no, that word, that boundary. That's what I say again when she tries one more time. When she says, please, just consider it, just think about Victoria. And Victoria, that name, that's who she's really concerned about, is who she's always been concerned about, is exactly who this has never been about for me, and being about me, this moment, this decision. This is first time I'm prioritizing myself, and prioritizing myself, that's not selfish, is necessary, is exactly what healthy people do. And healthy, that's what I'm becoming, is what I'm learning to be, is exactly what requires me to say you need to leave, Mom. And leave, that's what she needs to do, is what I'm requiring, is exactly what she finally does. And doing it, leaving, that's her walking out of my apartment, is her getting in her car, is exactly what gives me space to breathe. And breathing, that's what I do, is deep breath, is relief, is exactly what I feel when door closes behind her. And closing, that door, that symbolic, is meaningful, is exactly what's happening to old relationship. And relationship, old one that's ending, is being replaced, is exactly what's necessary for new one to begin. And beginning, that's what's happening, is what's starting, is exactly what occurs over next 2 weeks as sale processes. And processing, that's legal term, is what happens with contracts and titles and transfers. And transfers, that's what's occurring, is property moving from me to developer, is money moving from them to me, is exactly what finalizes on Tuesday afternoon in lawyer's office. And office, that's where I am, is where I'm sitting, is exactly where I sign final documents. And documents, those I sign them, I initial them, I complete transaction. And completing it, that's moment, is achievement, is exactly when I become person with significant money. And money, that's not just amount, is freedom, is options, is exactly what I've never had before. And having it, that's transformative, is powerful, is exactly what changes everything. And everything, that's not exaggeration, because everything does change, does shift, does become different. And different, that's what my life is now, is what my future is now, is exactly what I'm processing when lawyer hands me check. And check, that's large, is substantial, is exactly what I've earned. And earning it, that's through work, through learning, through 6 months of sacrifice. And sacrifice, that's what it took, is what it required, is exactly what makes this feel deserved. And deserve, that's what this is what I've earned, is exactly what I'm claiming when I walk out of lawyer's office. And office, that building, I walk out of it and I stand on sidewalk and I look at check and I understand that everything has changed, that I'm not struggling daughter anymore, that I'm not person they thought I was. And being that person, that previous version, that's over, is done, is exactly what's been left behind. And left behind, that's old narrative, is old identity, is exactly what's being replaced by new understanding, new reality, new truth. And truth, that's what I'm living now, is what I've claimed, is exactly what I'm going to demonstrate. And demonstrating it, that's next phase, is next chapter, is exactly what begins when I use some of money to buy my own place. And place mine, that's condominium, is downtown, is exactly what I choose. And choosing it, that's power, is autonomy, is exactly what I've earned through this process. And process, that journey that's transformed me, has changed me, has made me into person who stands up, who says no, who claims what's hers and hers mine. That's everything now, is what I built, is exactly what they're about to see. And seeing it, that's coming, is approaching, is exactly what happens 3 weeks after sale when I invite family to my new place. And place, mine, that's nice, is beautiful, is exactly what I've chosen. And chosen, that's my decision, is my taste, is exactly what they're going to see. And seeing it, that's revelation, is shock, is exactly what I'm planning. And planning it, that's strategic, is intentional, is exactly what's about to teach them final lesson. And lesson, that's what this is what they need, is exactly what they're going to learn when they walk through my door. And door, mine, that opens to space that's better than Victoria's, is nicer than Victoria's, is exactly what's going to force them to confront truth. And truth, that's what's coming, is what's next, is exactly what's about to shatter every assumption they've ever made about me. And making assumptions, that's been their error, has been their failure, has been exactly what's about to cost them everything they thought they knew. And knowing, that certainty, that's about to be destroyed, is about to be replaced is exactly what happens when Victoria walks through my door. And her face goes pale, and pale, that's color, is shade, is exactly what I've been waiting to see, and seeing it, that satisfaction, is vindication, is exactly what 6 months of work has earned me. And earning it, that's been journey, has been transformation, has been exactly what's about to be revealed. I need to pause here because I want you to understand something crucial about what's happening. Type underestimated if you've ever been dismissed by family. Type overlooked if they've ever chosen your sibling over you. Because what my parents did, what they're about to experience, that's not unique, is pattern that plays out everywhere, is exactly what happens when people measure worth by appearance instead of substance, and substance, that's what I have, is what I've built, is exactly what they're about to see. And from our stats, we've got way more viewers than subscribers. If you're following this story, if you recognize yourself in this pattern, if you've been the daughter who got scraps while your sister got palace, kindly join our community and subscribe. Thank you. Because what happens when Victoria walks into my new place, what my mother's face does when she sees what I built, what they realize about land they gave away, that's coming, is next, is exactly what you don't want to miss. And missing it, that would be tragedy, because this is moment when underestimated daughter proves everyone wrong. When dismissed child becomes successful woman, when scraps turn into victory, and victory, that's sweet, is earned, is exactly what happens next. Victoria walks into my new condominium, my downtown condominium, my place that I bought with money from house sale. And she stops in the entryway, actually stops moving, stops breathing, stops being smug, confident golden child. And golden child, that's who she's always been, is role she's played, is exactly what's being challenged by what she sees. And seeing, that's what she's doing, is taking in space that's bigger than her apartment, is noticing finishes that are better than hers, is recognizing furniture that's newer than hers. And hers, that apartment that was gift, was handed to her, was exactly what my parents thought was generous. And generous, that word, that's ironic now, is laughable now, is exactly what I'm thinking about when Victoria turns to me with expression I've never seen before. And before this moment, she's always looked at me with pity, with condescension, with certainty that she was better and better. That assumption that's crumbling is visible in way her face has gone pale, in way her mouth is slightly open, in way she can't quite form words, and words, those, she finally finds them when she says, "How did you?" And she stops, restarts, says, "This is," and she stops again, can't finish sentence, can't complete thought, can't process what she's seeing. And seeing, that's my success, is my achievement, is exactly what she never expected from me, and expecting what she expected. That was my failure, was my struggle, was me coming to her for help eventually, and eventually, that timeline, that future, that's been destroyed by reality, and reality, this, my condominium, my furniture, my life, that's what's destroying her narrative, and narrative, hers, that's been that she's successful one, that she's smart one, that she's daughter who made good choices, and choices, hers, those were easy, were handed to her, were exactly what she's starting to recognize. And recognizing that's happening is visible, is exactly what I see when my mother walks in behind Victoria, and mother, mine, she sees it too. Sees what Victoria sees condominium that's nicer than apartment she gifted. And gifted, that word, that's what she thought she was doing, thought she was being generous, thought she was helping both daughters equally. And equally, that's joke, is lie, is exactly what this moment exposes, and exposing it, that's not my goal, but is happening anyway, is unavoidable consequence of my success, and success, mine, that's visible in every corner, in every detail, in every choice I made with money I earned, and earning it, that's what makes this different, is what makes this mine, is exactly what makes this meaningful. And meaningful, that's what my father sees when he walks and laughs, when he takes in space, when his eyes move from hardwood floors to granite countertops to floor to ceiling windows with city view. And view, that's expensive, is premium, is exactly what you pay for in downtown real estate. And real estate, that's what I understand now, is what I've learned about, is exactly what I used when I bought this place. And buying it, that was strategic, was calculated, was exactly what someone does when they understand value. And value, that's what I created, is what I built, is exactly what my family is confronting. And confronting it, that's uncomfortable for them, is challenging their narrative, is exactly what makes my mother say in voice that's too bright, too forced, "Well, this is lovely. How are you affording this? And affording that question, that's revealing, shows she still thinks I'm struggling, still assumes I need help, still can't quite believe what she's seeing. And seeing it, believing it, those are different things and different. That gap, that's what I'm about to close when I say I bought it with money from the house sale. And house sale, that transaction, that's what funded this, is exactly what my mother's face shows she'd forgotten, and forgotten that's interesting, is revealing, is exactly what shows she didn't take sales seriously, didn't understand value, didn't realize what I'd actually accomplished, and accomplishing what I accomplished, that's transforming worthless property into valuable asset, is exactly what I explain when I continue. Say the developer paid well, paid more than apartment cost actually, and actually that word, that's emphasis, is point, is exactly what makes Victoria's face do something complicated and complicated. That's mix of emotions, is confusion and anger and something that might be recognition, and recognition, that's what she's having, is understanding that house they dismissed is what funded condominium they're standing in, and standing in it. That's what they're doing, are looking around, are processing, are exactly what I wanted them to do. And doing this confrontation, this revelation, this wasn't planned as revenge, but feels like justice, and justice, that's what this is natural. Consequence is exactly what happens when people who dismiss you are forced to see you clearly, and clearly, that's how they're seeing me now, is how they're understanding me now, is exactly what's different from every previous interaction and interaction. That's what's happening when my mother sits on my couch. My gray sectional that I chose, that I bought, that I own, and owning it, that's theme here, is pattern, is exactly what everything in this space represents, and representing. Ownership, that's what this does, is showing them that I'm capable, that I'm successful, that I'm exactly what they said I wasn't and wasn't. That's their assumption, was their certainty, was exactly what this moment is destroying. And destroying it, that's not cruel, is necessary, is exactly what's required for them to see me differently. And differently, that's how my father is looking at me now, is with expression I've never seen before. And before, always, he's looked at me with disappointment, with distance, with certainty that Victoria was better investment. And investment, that word, that's revealing about how he thinks and thinks what he thinks, that's children are investments, are projects, are things to be managed, and managing us, that's what he's done, has always done, has exactly what led to this moment, and moment, that's reckoning, is accounting, is exactly what happens when Victoria finally speaks again. When she says voice that's tight, that's controlled, that's barely holding together. Mom said you were selling to developer. I didn't realize it was for this much. And this much, that amount, that's what she's focused on, is what bothers her. Is exactly what reveals that this isn't about being happy for me, is about being threatened by me, and threatened, that's accurate word, because my success threatens her position, challenges her status. Undermines narrative that she's successful daughter, and successful daughter, that's been her identity, has been her worth, has been exactly what's being questioned by my condominium, and condominium, mine, that's visible proof, is undeniable evidence, is exactly what makes her ask how much did you get, and much. That question, that's vulgar, is inappropriate, is exactly what someone asks when they're measuring worth in dollars, and dollars, that's what this is about for her, is what she's calculating, is exactly what I refuse to share when I say that's private, Victoria, and private. That boundary, that's new for me, is growth, is exactly what this process has taught me and teaching me, that's ongoing, is continuing, is exactly what makes me able to stand here, to host them, to watch them process, and processing, that's what they're doing, is what's happening in silence that follows, and silence that's heavy, is weighted, is exactly what gets broken when my mother tries different approach. When she says, well, I'm glad you're doing well, but I have to say I'm hurt that you didn't consider family, didn't think about Victoria, didn't offer her the house, and house, that again, that claim, that's persistent, is recurring, is exactly what shows she still doesn't understand, and understanding, that's what I'm about to force when I say, Mom, you gave me condemned house and Victoria brand new apartment. You made choice about who deserved what, and choice, that's what she made, is what she's living with, is exactly what I'm not going to let her rewrite, and rewriting, that's what she's trying, is what she's attempting, is exactly what I prevent when I continue. Say you thought you were being generous, thought you were helping me with potential project, but what you actually did was give me opportunity you didn't understand, and understanding it, that's what she should have done, is what due diligence requires, is exactly what she failed to do. And failing, that's her error, is her miscalculation, is exactly what's cost her and costing her. That's not just house, is narrative, is control, is exactly what she's lost and losing, that's visible in her face. In way she's sitting on my couch looking small, looking uncertain, looking exactly like I've felt for 27 years, and 27 years, that's how long I've been invisible daughter, have been overlooked child, have been exactly what they're seeing differently now, and seeing differently, that's what's happened, is what's changed, is exactly what this moment represents, and representing it, that's my condominium, is my success, is exactly what they can't ignore, and ignoring me, that's been pattern, has been strategy, has been exactly what's impossible now, and impossible. That's what it is what this moment has made it, is exactly what my father acknowledges when he says quietly, almost to himself, we underestimated you, and underestimated. That word, that's admission, is recognition, is exactly what I've been waiting to hear, and hearing it, that's satisfying, is validating, is exactly what makes something in my chest loosen. And loosening, that's tension releasing, is validation sinking in, is exactly what I feel when I say, yes, you did, and did, that's past tense, is acknowledgement, is exactly what this conversation is about, and about, that's examining past, is confronting choices, is exactly what my mother isn't ready to do when she pivots, when she tries to change subject, when she asks what my plans are, and plans, mine, those are my business, are my future, are exactly what I share on my terms, and terms, mine, those are what matter now, are what determine engagement, are exactly what I establish when I say my plans are to keep building, keep growing, keep proving that your assumptions about me were wrong, and wrong. They were, are, will continue to be, and being wrong, that's their legacy, is their contribution, is exactly what this moment is teaching them, and teaching them that's not my responsibility, but is happening anyway, is unavoidable consequence of my success. And success, mine, that's not just financial, is personal, is emotional, is exactly what's visible in how I stand, how I speak, how I occupy my own space. And space, mine, that's what this is what I've created, is exactly what they're in right now, and being in it, that's on my terms, is my choice, is exactly what's different from every family gathering before this. And before this, always, I've been in their space, on their terms, playing their games, and games, those, I'm done with them, am finished with them, am exactly what I communicate when I say I think we should talk about expectations going forward, and expectations, those are about to be reset, are about to be clarified, are exactly what I'm about to establish, and establishing them, that's power, is autonomy, is exactly what this moment is about, and about, that's not just condominium, is not just money, is me claiming voice, claiming space, claiming right to determine my own narrative, and narrative, mine, that's what I'm writing now, is what I'm living now, is exactly what they're going to have to accept. And accepting it, that's their choice, is their decision, is exactly what will determine whether we have relationship going forward, and forward, that's direction, is future, is exactly what I'm focused on and focusing on it. That requires me to let go of past, requires me to stop seeking their approval, requires me to understand that their opinion of me, that's their issue, not mine, and mine, that's my life, my choices, my success, and success. That's what this is what I've built, is exactly what they're standing in, and standing in it, that's them processing, is them understanding, is exactly what's happening when Victoria says voice that's barely audible, I don't understand how you did this. And did this, that's past tense, is acknowledgement, is exactly what shows she's starting to see me differently, and differently, that's necessary, is required, is exactly what this moment is creating, and creating it, that's not about revenge, is about truth, is about forcing recognition, and recognition, that's what's happening, is what's visible, is exactly what makes this moment worth everything I went through to get here. And getting here, that's been journey, has been transformation, has been exactly what's made me into person who can stand in her own condominium, face her family, and finally be seen. The silence in my condominium stretches, gets heavier, gets more uncomfortable, and uncomfortable. That's what my family is feeling, is what their faces show, is exactly what happens when people's assumptions get destroyed in front of them. And destroyed, that's accurate word, because what's been destroyed isn't just their belief about my capabilities, is their entire framework for understanding family hierarchy. And hierarchy, that's what they've maintained, have enforced, have used to keep. Victoria elevated and me diminished, and diminished, that's past tense now, is over now, is exactly what this moment represents, and representing change, that's my condominium, is my success, is exactly what forces my mother to try one more time, to make one more attempt to regain control. And control, that's what she's after. Is what she's always been after, is exactly what she reaches for when she says in voice that's attempting warmth, but landing manipulative. Well, regardless of how this happened, we're family, and family means supporting each other, means helping when someone needs it, and needs it, that's interesting phrase, is loaded phrase, is exactly what tells me where this is going, and going that direction, that's toward asking me for something, is toward repositioning me as resource, is exactly what she does. When she continues, says Victoria's apartment really is quite small and the building is having issues, and maybe you could help her find something better. And better, that word, that's code, is translation, is exactly what means she wants me to fund Victoria's upgrade. And upgrade, that's what she's requesting, is what she's suggesting, is exactly what shows she hasn't learned anything, hasn't understood anything, hasn't grasped that this moment isn't about me having resources to share, is about me having boundaries to enforce. And enforcing them, that's what I do, is what I'm about to do, is exactly what happens when I say no. And no, that word, that's complete sentence, is full answer, is exactly what my therapist has been teaching me to say. And therapist, that's someone I started seeing 3 months ago, is professional who's been helping me understand family dynamics, helping me recognize patterns, helping me build boundaries, and boundaries, those, I'm using them now, I'm implementing them now. Am exactly what I demonstrate when my mother's face shows shock, shows disbelief, shows exactly what happens when Golden Child's mother hears favorite word she's never heard from me before. And before, always, I've said yes, I've said of course, I've said whatever you need, and need what they need. That's been my purpose, has been my role, has been exactly what I'm refusing now. And refusing, that's new, is revolutionary, is exactly what makes my mother say. You're saying no to your sister, and sister, that word, that's weapon again, is manipulation again, is exactly what I address when I say I'm saying no to being ATM machine, mom. I'm saying no to being safety net for Victoria's choices. I'm saying no to continuing pattern where I sacrifice, so she benefits and benefits hers. Those have been built on my diminishment, have been funded by my invisibility, have been exactly what this family structure required, and requiring it, that's been system. Has been design, has been exactly what I'm dismantling by succeeding. And succeeding, that's what I've done, is what's visible, is exactly what makes Victoria finally speak, makes her say with edge and voice, with anger that's been building, you think you're better than me now. And better, that word, that's revealing, is telling, is exactly what shows this has always been competition for her. And competition, that framework, that's how she's always seen us, has always measured us, has always understood our relationship, and relationship, ours, that's never been sisterhood, has been rivalry, has been exactly what she confirms when she continues, says you got lucky with that house. That's all this is, luck and luck. That word, that dismissal, that's her refusing to see my work, my learning, my 6 months of sacrifice, and sacrifice mine. That's what built value, is what created opportunity, is exactly what I point out when I say luck is inheriting condemned property. Victoria work is spending 6 months renovating it. Learning is discovering it sat on valuable land. Intelligence is consulting lawyer before signing anything. And signing, that's what I did, is what I research, is exactly what she would have known if she'd ever asked about my life. And asking, that's things she's never done, has never shown interest in, has never considered important. And important, my life, that's never been her concern, has never been their concern, has been exactly what this moment is. Forcing them to recognize, and recognizing it, that's happening, is visible, is exactly what my father shows when he says quietly, she's right, Gloria, she worked for this, and worked, that acknowledgement, that's from my father, is first time he's defended me, is exactly what makes something in my chest crack open. And opening, that's vulnerability, is emotion, is exactly what I don't want to feel right now. And feeling it, that's dangerous, is risky, is exactly what could make me back down. And backing down, that's what they expect, is what they're waiting for, is exactly what I refuse to do when my mother pivots again, tries different approach, says, but we're talking about your sister, about family, surely you can help a little. And little, that word, that's minimizing, is making requests seem small, is exactly what manipulation looks like. And looking like manipulation, that's because it is manipulation, is what I've learned to recognize, is exactly what I call out when I say, what you're asking isn't little, Mom. You're asking me to fund Victoria's lifestyle, to subsidize choices she's made, to continue pattern where my success exists to support her comfort, and comfort hers. That's been priority, has always been priority, has been exactly what family structure has been organized around, and organized around it. That's been design, has been system, has been exactly what I'm refusing to participate in. And participating, that's choice, is decision, is exactly what I'm making when I say I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not being invisible daughter who sacrifices while Victoria shines. I'm not being backup plan. I'm not being resource. I'm being person, and person. That's what I am, is what I'm claiming, is exactly what this moment is about. And about that's not revenge, is survival, is exactly what my therapist calls healthy differentiation. And differentiation, that's separating my identity from their expectations, is claiming my own path, is exactly what I'm doing when I continue. Say from now on, my relationship with this family is conditional, and conditional, that word, that gets reaction, gets my mother's face going tight, gets Victoria's eyes going wide, gets exactly what I intended. And intending it, that strategic, is necessary, is exactly what I explain when I say conditional on respect, on boundaries being honored, on me being treated as equal rather than as lesser. And lesser, that's been my position, has been my rank, has been exactly what's over now. And over, that's what I'm declaring, is what I'm establishing, is exactly what I'm enforcing when I say, if you can't do that, if you can't see me as person rather than as resource, then we don't have relationship. And relationship, that's at stake, is what I'm willing to lose, is exactly what shows them I'm serious. And serious, that's what I am, is what my face shows, is exactly what my tone communicates. And communicating it, that's power, is clarity, is exactly what makes my mother stand up, makes her smooth her skirt, makes her do that thing she does when she's losing argument. And losing, that's what she is what's happening, is exactly what she can't accept. And accepting it, that would require acknowledging she was wrong. And wrong, being wrong, that's not something she does, has never done, will apparently never do, which is exactly what she demonstrates when she says, fine, if that's how you feel. If you're going to be ungrateful, if you're going to turn your back on family, then I think we should go and go. That's her choice, is her decision, is exactly what I allow when I say, okay. And okay, that word, that's permission, is acceptance, is exactly what she doesn't expect. And expecting what she expected, that was me backing down, was me apologizing, was me begging them to stay. And staying, that's not what happens, is not what I asked for, is exactly what makes her face show shock when she realizes I'm not going to stop her. And stopping her, that's not my job, is not my responsibility, is exactly what I understand now. And understanding now, that's growth, is wisdom, is exactly what 6 months of therapy has taught me. And teaching me, that's ongoing, is continuing, is exactly what allows me to stand here, to watch them gather their coats, to let them walk toward door, and door, mine, that's what they're walking toward, is exit, I'm allowing, is exactly what makes Victoria turn back one more time, makes her say, you're going to regret this. And regret, that word, that's threat, is prediction, is exactly what she thinks will happen. And happening, what she thinks will happen, that's me realizing I need them, is me coming back apologizing, is exactly what's not going to occur. And occurring, what's actually going to occur, that's me living my life, is me building my future, is exactly what I'm going to do without them. And without them, that's possible now, is achievable now, is exactly what this moment has proven, and proving it. That's been journey, has been transformation, has been exactly what this house sale enabled. And enabling, that's what money does, is what resources provide, is exactly what I'm going to use going forward. And forward, that's direction, is focus, is exactly where I'm looking when they walk out, when door closes, when I'm finally alone in my space. And space, mine, that's what this is what I've created, is exactly what represents everything I've become and becoming. That's process, is ongoing, is exactly what continues after they leave. And leaving, they do leave, actually walk out of my condominium and out of my life in ways that matter. And mattering, they don't matter the same way anymore, don't have same power, don't have same control. And control, that's what I have now, is what I've claimed, is exactly what the next 6 months demonstrate. And demonstrating, that's what I do, is what my life shows, is exactly what becomes visible to everyone. And everyone, that's extended family, is people who'd heard about the dilapidated house, who'd felt sorry for me, who'd thought I'd gotten bad deal. And bad deal, that's what they thought it was, is what they've been told, is exactly what gets corrected when word spreads about my condominium. And spreading, that word does spread, travels through family, reaches aunts and uncles and cousins. They start calling, start asking questions, start wanting to know how I did it. And doing it, that's what they're curious about, is what they want to understand, is exactly what I explain selectively carefully, strategically, that's how I operate now, is how I engage, is exactly what I've learned and learned. That's from experience, is from mistakes, is from finally understanding that information is power, and power, that's what I have, is what I'm using, is exactly what I demonstrate when my aunt calls, when she asks about the house, when I explain about the zoning, about the land value, about the research I did. And research, that's what made difference, is what created value, is exactly what my parents never bothered to do. And bothering to do it, that would have required seeing me as capable. And capable, that's what I am, is what I've proven, is exactly what becomes undeniable when 3 months after they walked out, my mother calls. And calling, that's her reaching out, is her attempting contact, is exactly what I screen, what I let go to voicemail, what I listen to later, and later, that's when I'm ready, is when I'm strong, is exactly when I hear her voice saying we need to talk, saying she's been thinking, saying maybe we were too harsh. And harsh, that word, that's interesting choice, is minimizing choice, is exactly what shows she still doesn't get it, and getting it, that's understanding, is recognition, is exactly what she's still missing, and missing it, that's her choice, is her limitation, is exactly what determines that I don't call back, don't respond, don't engage, and engaging, that's my choice. Now is my power, is exactly what I'm withholding until I see actual change, and change. Actual change, that's not apology, is behavior, is pattern, is exactly what I'm waiting for, and waiting, that's my position now, is my stance, is exactly what shows I've learned something crucial, and crucial. That's understanding that I don't owe them relationship, don't owe them access, don't owe them anything except honesty, and honesty. That's what I'm practicing, is what I'm living, is exactly what I'm demonstrating when I finally respond to my mother's 5th voicemail, when I call her back, when I say I'm willing to talk, but only on these conditions, and conditions, those, I list them, am specific about them, am exactly clear about what I need, and needing what I need. That's respect, is acknowledgement, is them actually seeing what they did and doing that. That's requirement, is non-negotiable, is exactly what will determine whether we rebuild relationship or whether it stays broken and broken. That's what it is now, has been for months, has been exactly what this distance has revealed. And revealing, that's what distance does, shows truth, exposes patterns, makes clear what was always there and always there. That's favoritism, is hierarchy, is exactly what needs to change, and changing it, that's their work, is their responsibility, is exactly what I'm waiting to see, and seeing it. That's what will determine future, is what will shape what comes next, is exactly what this story is building toward, and building toward, that's resolution, is reckoning, is exactly what's coming. 6 months after I walked away from my family, 6 months after I established boundaries and stopped being invisible daughter, 6 months after I claimed my space and my voice and my worth, I'm sitting in coffee shop in downtown Philadelphia, and my phone buzzes, and it's text from my father, and mine, he hasn't texted me in months, hasn't reached out since I laid down conditions, hasn't attempted contact since I made it clear that relationship required actual change, and change, actual change, that's what his text suggests might be happening, and happening, that possibility, that's what makes me read it, makes me consider it, makes me think about responding, and responding, that's what I do, is what I choose, is exactly what leads to meeting 3 days later at neutral location, at restaurant neither of us has history with, at place where we can talk without baggage of family home, and home, family home. That's place I haven't been to in 6 months, is space I've avoided, is exactly what I don't miss, and missing it, that's interesting, because what I've learned in these 6 months is that I don't miss them, don't miss drama, don't miss being compared to Victoria, don't miss feeling invisible, and invisible, that's what I was, is what I've stopped being, is exactly what my father seems to recognize when he sees me. When I walk into restaurant, when he stands up from table, and standing up, that's gesture, is respect, is exactly what's different from every previous interaction and interaction. That's what's about to happen, is what I'm cautiously open to, is exactly what begins when I sit down, and he says before I can speak, says in voice that's quieter than I've ever heard, I owe you an apology, and apology, that word, that's not something my father says, has never said in my memory, has been exactly what I've needed to hear, and hearing it, that's affecting me, is making my throat tight, is exactly what I didn't expect to feel, and feeling it, that's vulnerability, is risk, is exactly what I manage when I say, okay, I'm listening, and listening, that's what I do, is what he's asking for, is exactly what he gets when he continues, says we treated you terribly, Says we favored Victoria. Says we made assumptions about you that were wrong and wrong. That acknowledgement, that's more than I expected, is deeper than I thought he'd go, is exactly what makes me lean forward, and leaning forward, that's engagement, is investment, is exactly what shows I'm open to this, and open to it, that's conditional, is careful, is exactly what I communicate when I say what changed, what made you see this, and seeing this, that recognition, that's what I need to understand, is what I need to know is genuine, and genuine, that's question, is concern, is exactly what he addresses when he says watching you walk away. Says seeing you mean it, says realizing you were serious about cutting us off, that changed things. And things, what changed, that's his perspective, is his. Understanding is exactly what he explained, says your mother and I have been in therapy, and therapy, that word, that's significant, is meaningful, is exactly what shows he's done work, and work. Actual work, that's what's required, is what change demands, is exactly what I've done too. And doing it, both of us doing it, that's interesting, is parallel, is exactly what might make reconnection possible, and possible. That's different from guaranteed, is different from easy, is exactly what I clarify when I say therapy is good. Dad, but I need to know what's actually changed in how you see me, and seeing me, that's core issue, is fundamental problem, is exactly what he addresses when he says, I see that we made you invisible, says we treated you like backup plan, says we measured your worth against Victoria instead of seeing you for who you are, and who you are, that phrase, that's what matters, is what I've needed, is exactly what makes my eyes burn, and burning, that's tears. Threatening is emotion rising, is exactly what I manage to control when I say, and who am I? Dad, and dad, mine. He looks at me, really looks at me the way he's never looked at me before. And before, always, he's looked past me, looked at me through lens of comparison, and comparison, that's over, is what he's trying to end, is exactly what he demonstrates when he says you're capable. You're resilient. You're smarter than we gave you credit for. You took disaster. We gave you and turned it into victory. And victory, that acknowledgement, that's validating, is powerful, is exactly what I've needed to hear, and hearing it, that's healing something, is reaching something deep, is exactly what makes me say, what about mom? What about Victoria? And Victoria, my sister, that's complication, is ongoing issue, is exactly what he addresses when he says your mother is trying, says she's in therapy too, says she's working on understanding why she favored Victoria. And favored, that acknowledgement, that's huge, is significant, is exactly what shows they're naming it, they're admitting it, they're not pretending it didn't happen, and happening, that admission, that's first step, is necessary step, is exactly what's required before anything else can change. And changing, that process, that's what he describes, says it's slow, says it's hard, says your mother keeps wanting to rush it, keeps wanting to fix it immediately, keeps wanting me to just forgive and move on, and moving on, that's not how this works, is not how healing happens, is exactly what I explain when I say I can't just move on. Dad, I need to see sustained change, need to see that this isn't just about you wanting me back, is about you actually seeing what you did, and did, what they did, that's decades of damage, is years of being invisible, is exactly what requires real accountability, and accountability. That's what I'm asking for, is what I'm requiring, is exactly what determines whether we rebuild or whether this distance becomes permanent, and permanent, that's option, is real possibility, is exactly what I'm comfortable with if change doesn't happen, and happening, change happening, that's what I'm watching for, is what I'm measuring, is exactly what I continue to assess over next 3 months when my father and I start having regular coffee meetings, when we start talking honestly, when we start building something that might be real relationship, and relationship, real one, that's different from what we had before, is based on honesty instead of hierarchy, is exactly what we're creating, and creating it, that's work, is effort, is exactly what we're both investing in, and investing, that's time, is vulnerability, is exactly what I'm giving carefully, strategically, with full knowledge that I can stop anytime, and stopping, that's my right, is my power, is exactly what I've learned I can do, and doing it, that capability, that's what's change me, is what's transformed me, is exactly what becomes visible when my mother finally reaches out, when she asks to meet, when she says she wants to talk and talk. That's what we do, is what happens in same restaurant, at same table. Except this time it's harder, is more complicated, is exactly what I expect when I see her, when she's sitting there looking smaller somehow, looking uncertain, looking exactly like I've never seen her before. And before, always, she's been confident, been certain, been exactly sure of her position, and position, Hers, that's been shaken, has been challenged, has been exactly what these months have done, and doing what they've done, that's forced her to examine herself, forced her to confront her choices, forced her to see patterns she created, and created that pattern, that's favoritism, is systematic preference for Victoria, is exactly what she acknowledges when she says, I treated you unfairly, and unfairly, that word, that's understatement, is minimizing, is exactly what I address when I say unfairly doesn't cover it. Mom, you gave Victoria everything and gave me scraps. You made me invisible while making her golden. You positioned me to fail while setting her up to succeed. And succeed, that's what I did anyway, is what I accomplished despite her, is exactly what seems to hurt her most. And hurting her, that's visible in her face. In way she's looking at table instead of at me. In way her hands are twisted together and together. Those hands, that's nervous gesture, is vulnerability, is exactly what I've never seen from her, and seeing it, that's affecting me, is making this harder, is exactly what makes me say, why? Mom, why did you do it? And doing it, that choice, that's what I need to understand, is what I need to hear her explain, and explaining, that's what she tries to do. Says Victoria reminded me of myself, says she was easier, says you were always so independent, so capable, so able to handle things, and handling things, that's what I did, is what I had to do, is exactly what she's describing as reason for neglecting me. And neglecting me, that's what it was, is accurate word, is exactly what I name when I say so, because I was capable. You decided I didn't need support, and support, that's what I needed, is what every child needs, is exactly what she denied me. And denying it, that was her choice, was her failure, was exactly what she's starting to recognize, and recognizing it, that's what her face shows, is what her tears show. Is exactly what's happening when she says, I was wrong. I was so wrong. I see that now, and seeing it, that's progress. Is acknowledgement, is exactly what I've needed, and needing it, that's valid, is reasonable, is exactly what I claim when I say I need you to understand what that did to me. Need you to see that I spent 27 years thinking I wasn't enough. And enough, that's what I thought, is what your favoritism taught me, is exactly what I've had to unlearn, and unlearning it, that's been work, has been therapy, has been exactly what I'm still doing, and doing it, that's ongoing, is continuing, is exactly what she needs to understand, and understanding it, that's what she's trying to do, is what these conversations are about, is exactly what's happening over next 6 months when we meet regularly, when we talk honestly, when we start rebuilding something that might be relationship, and relationship, new one, that's different from before, is based on truth instead of roles, is exactly what we're creating. And creating it, that's slow, is careful, is exactly what it should be, and being careful, that's wisdom, is self-protection, is exactly what I maintain even as we get closer and closer. That's what we're getting, is what's happening, is exactly what I see when my mother invites me to family dinner. And dinner, family dinner, that's first one in year, is first time I'll see Victoria in months, is exactly what I'm nervous about. And nervous, that's what I am, is what I feel, is exactly what I'm managing when I walk into my parents' house, into house I grew up in, into space. That holds decades of memories and memories. Those, they're complicated, are mixed, are exactly what I'm processing when I see Victoria. And Victoria, my sister, she's different somehow, is changed, is exactly what I notice when she stands up, when she walks over, when she says, can we talk, and talk. That's what we do, is what happens in my childhood bedroom, in room that's been converted to guest room, in space that doesn't feel like mine anymore, and mine anymore, that's okay, is growth, is exactly what I feel when Victoria says, I've been jealous of you. And jealous, that word, that's admission, is vulnerability, is exactly what I didn't expect, and expecting what I expected, that was defensiveness, was justification, was exactly what I don't get, and getting instead, what I get instead, that's honesty, is confession, is exactly what she continues when she says, you've always been more capable than me, more independent, more successful in ways that actually matter, and matter. That acknowledgement, that's seeing me, is recognizing me, is exactly what I've needed from her, and needing it, that's valid, is reasonable, is exactly what this moment is providing, and providing it, that's her choice, is her growth, is exactly what makes me say I've been angry at you, and angry, that's honest, is true, is exactly what I owe her, and owing her, that's honesty, is reciprocal vulnerability, is exactly what relationship requires, and requiring it, that's what real connection demands, is what we're attempting, is exactly what we're building when I say, but I'm willing to try, willing to see if we can be actual sisters, and sisters, Actual sisters, that's different from what we were, is based on equality instead of competition, is exactly what we're attempting over the next year as family slowly rebuilds and rebuilding. That's what we're doing, is what's happening, is exactly what's still in progress when I'm sitting in that same coffee shop year later. And year later, that's now, is present, is exactly when I'm telling you this story. And story, this that's not about revenge, is about transformation, is about what happens when you're underestimated and you turn that underestimation into power. And power, that's what I have now, is what I built, is exactly what came from Dilapidated House my parents gave me. And giving me that house, that's what they thought was burden, what they intended as proof of my lesser status, what they used to demonstrate victorious superiority. But what it actually was, what it actually became, was opportunity, was foundation, was exactly what I needed to prove them wrong. And proving them wrong, that wasn't revenge, was justice, was natural consequence of their assumptions meeting my reality, and reality mine. That's what I'm living now, is what I built, is exactly what I want you to understand. And understanding it, that's important, is crucial, is exactly what I hope this story gives you and giving you. This story, that's my gift, is my contribution, is exactly what I'm offering to anyone who's been underestimated, who's been dismissed, who's been told they're not enough. And enough, you are enough, are exactly enough, are more than enough. And being more than enough, that's truth, is reality, is exactly what you need to claim. And claiming it, that starts with seeing yourself clearly, with understanding your worth, with refusing to accept other people's limitations as your truth. And truth, yours, that's what matters, is what determines your future, is exactly what I learned from Dilapidated House that became my victory. And victory, that's what this is what you can have too, is exactly what happens when you stop accepting scraps and start building your own table. And table, yours, that's where you belong, is where you should sit, is exactly where I'm sitting now. In life I built, in space I claimed, in future I created despite them, because of them, for myself and myself. That's who this was always for, is who this story is about, is exactly who you should be fighting for too.